Welcome to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
John and Heidi.
Here's John and Heidi.
Today is a special day, Heidi. Do you know what today is?
What is today, John?
I thought you'd never ask, Heidi. It is Wednesday, the 4th day of September.
Wow.
Today is National Wildlife Day. Heidi has kind of wildlife. Eat an extra dessert day. Oh, yeah.
We can't celebrate that one.
National Spice Blend Day, Macadamia Nut Day, National Newspaper Carrier Day. Were you ever a newspaper carrier?
I was not.
I was never officially a newspaper carrier, but my neighbor was, and I would help him with his paper out all the time. So I kind of sort of was. And Global Talent Acquisition Day today. So it's a day to hire talented people, apparently. Speaking of talented people, I'm going to talk to one. Frank Andre Guridy is the author of a new book. It's called The Stadium, An American History of Politics, Protests, and Play. Never really thought much about stadiums, but this guy literally wrote a book about the subject, and I'm excited to chat with him all about it coming up.
Charlie has Parkinson's. Recently, Charlie started wearing a bracelet from VitaTech Healing.
I'm an avid golfer, and I was going to give it up this year. I just deteriorated that much. Now I'm back to golfing, enjoying it, having a good time. I just can't stress enough how good it is.
Click on radiosavings.com to hear more of Charlie's story and find out how VitaTech Healing is helping others with ADHD, fibromyalgia, autism, and more. Plus, find radio-only savings by clicking the link at radiosavings.com. That's radiosavings.com.
Now, surveys and studies and such brought to you by BetterCreditCards.com. A surprising new study reports that your home bathroom sink might harbor more potential harmful bacteria than its hospital counterparts, raising concerns at home about hygiene practices. Research from Flinders University in Australia examined biofilms, thin, slimy layers of microorganisms that adhere to surfaces found on faucets and drains. It was found that residential sinks, particularly drains, harbored higher levels of certain bacteria. Bacterium responsible for Legionnaire's disease is one of them, Legionella. The team says their findings highlight a potential blind spot in our approach to infection control. So I'm not exactly sure what you're supposed to do. Probably have a certain type of cleaning product that would take care of that.
Right, probably.
So the other thing is
Or
just...
when you're cleaning, focus on the drain, because
Yeah.
you usually skip that part, I would assume.
Here's the thing. Don't lick the drain. There's another idea. So I don't know that people were doing that, but if you were, you should stop. Surveys and studies and such brought to you by BetterCreditCards.com.
If you want a better credit card, it can be easy and not so hard. BetterCreditCards.com. Earn more points and get more perks. Get what you're looking for in a card that works. BetterCreditCards.com. Give yourself a little credit. BetterCreditCards.com. Give yourself a little credit. BetterCreditCards.com.
That's bettercreditcards.com.
Did you know? Brought to you by GenesisGoldIRA.com. Heidi, did you know that Jupiter's red spot is almost as well known as the planet's remarkable rings? But the spot, which is in fact a storm, has been shrinking for like a century and a half now. NASA cannot predict what will happen to the storm that was once big enough to swallow 3 Earths, room to spare as well. They do know that it seems to have increased in area at least once along the way, and it's growing taller as it gets smaller. So it's like it's just changing shape, apparently. So
they have climate change, is what you're telling me?
Apparently, on Jupiter. So, yeah, it's probably from all the...
Must be all the cows.
Yeah, or the cars.
Yeah.
I don't know, on Jupiter. We don't know everything, but now we know this.
John and Heidi.
Now, big screen, little screen, brought to you by radiosavings.com. Megan Thee Stallion has been tapped to host the 2024 Video Music Awards September 11th. Heidi was actually hoping to be the host of that. But,
I was.
Sorry to be the one to break your heart there, Heidi.
Denied again.
And Steven Nedorosik, who went viral as Pommel Horse Guy during the Olympics, is the first celebrity cast member revealed for Dancing with the Stars season 33.
Okay.
So,
Gosh, I didn't even know that show was still on.
yeah, season 33. They've been doing that a bit now. And Alex Rodriguez, or A-Rod, is weighing in apparently on Bennifer 2.0 breakup from the sidelines. Now, he was dating her for a while, too.
He's been engaged to her.
Yeah, he was the ex-fiance. Filed for divorce now. Jennifer Lopez filed for divorce from Ben Affleck, and A-Rod shared a post citing one of his own quotes, which read, "You either go one way or the other. You might as well be the one deciding the direction," end quote. So it sounds like it's a motivational line that's harmless, but apparently there's people that say there's a whole lot more to this. So I don't know what's going on. I'll just stay out of it. Thanks for listening to The John and Heidi Show.
Charlie has Parkinson's. He started wearing a bracelet from Vitatech Healing, and he's noticed a difference even while sleeping.
Once I got in bed, I couldn't roll over. I couldn't move. I was just whatever position I was in, just a chore to get out of bed. And now everything is so much better.
Click on radiosavings.com to hear more of Charlie's story and find out how Vitatech Healing is helping others with ADHD, fibromyalgia, autism, and more. Plus, find radio-only savings by clicking the link at radiosavings.com. That's radiosavings.com.
Now your scoop of the day comes your way, courtesy of bettercreditcards.com. A study shows that shy people are better at reading facial expressions. What do you think, Heidi? You're kind of shy.
I agree with that completely.
Yeah, usually, I remember one guy, there's a guy that I met. I worked with him officially, and then he and I are talking, and Heidi's like, yeah, stay away from that guy. He's bad news. I'm like, no, he's not. And then I start explaining things that he told me. She's like, all of these are huge red flags. I'm like, no, he's fine. He's a great guy. As it turns out, he was not a great guy. Yeah, it was a shock to me.
That's happened more than once
Heidi's
with
like,
you,
how
actually.
do you not know this? And this was almost my weird news, but I didn't want to put this as weird news because I think it's kind of cool.
Okay.
But it's also kind of weird. The Air Guitar World Championships have crowned this year's winner following 3 days of competitions.
Wow.
Yeah. The 27th annual Olympics of Air Guitar in Sweden featured competitors bearing names such as Shred Lasso
Oh, cute.
and Guitarantula. They all culminated Friday night. I think this is like a week ago now, when Canada's Zachary Ichabod Fame Knowles was named the 2024 Air Guitar World Champion.
I would like to see what that looks like.
Contestants were judged on their performances of 2 songs in 2 separate rounds, each lasting 60 seconds. Props and costumes are allowed, but backup bands and real instruments are forbidden. The jury took into account their contestants' originality, their ability to be taken over by the music, their stage presence, their technical merit, their artistic impression, and their, quote, airness. It's air guitar world
I would like to
champions.
see this, actually.
Yeah.
I would
There's video.
check this out.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And congrats to all of the winners. And this probably could have been weird news, but it's not. Your scoop of the day comes your way, courtesy of bettercreditcards.com.
Can your IRA or 401k stand up to the next financial crisis by allocating a percentage of your retirement into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover? You can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns. Safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Protect your retirement today with a simple phone call and receive your free gold and silver guide. Call 1-800-200-GOLD or visit genesisgoldira.com.
Thank you for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Wednesday. Our guest today is Frank Andre Guridy. He is the author of a new book. It's called The Stadium, An American History of Politics, Protest, and Play. So, Frank, what led up to you writing this particular book?
You know, like so many sports fans, the book starts with formative experiences going to ball games with my dad, right? Or going to the circus at Madison Square Garden. I'm a native New Yorker. But, you know, as I became a scholar and a historian of American history, you know, I sort of realized, as I started doing research, like, wow, you know, this building we associate with sports and entertainment, it has a much larger role in American history. It's a place that, you know, we fight our battles what it means to be American. I mean, we see this summer with the Republican and Democratic national conventions happening where in the United Center and the Fifth Forum in Milwaukee, right? It's a place where struggles for freedom and justice, whether it was the Black freedom civil rights movement, whether it was the second wave feminist movement, whether it was the LGBTQ movement in the 1980s, you know, stake their claims for equality and justice. They take their struggles to the ballpark, to the arena, because these buildings are large, because they are accessible, because they, you know, are these iconic graphic parts of cities and towns across the country. They become this amazing space to look at the history of the United States, and that's what I try to do in this book.
And I think one of the things that's fascinating to me is there are communities where they'll build a stadium in a part of town where maybe development has been slow, and then the next thing you know, those are the most expensive square feet in that community because of the stadium.
Undoubtedly. You know, that's a phenomenon that really starts about 30 years ago. You know, before that, I mean, again, these buildings have always been, places for entertainment and for leisure and sports. But before that, I think most of the time stadiums, certainly in the mid-20th century, were seen as monuments to local civic identity. We see the proliferation of memorial stadiums all over the country, honoring veterans from the different wars that the U.S. has been a part of, right? But when we start to see in the 1990s, stadiums get remade into this idea of engines of economic revitalization. And you certainly see the ways in which they can generate economic activity, right? And some forms of housing, right? But more often than not, unfortunately, they don't create the kind of value from an economic standpoint that's often promised. And I think that's the thing that we have to remember. Like, if we're going to allocate so much public subsidy to the building of these structures, what is the payback, right? And more often than not, stadiums are often too costly to maintain and to build, and they don't warrant the investments that the public puts into. That's the pattern more often than not, and that's part of the challenge that we're facing in our country today.
As you were going to put this book together and you're kind of getting all your stuff gathered and you're getting ready, did everything go exactly as planned, or did you learn things along the way where even you, writing a book called The Stadium, learned a little bit of something along the way?
Oh, I learned throughout the entire process. Part of that's because as a scholar, I'm committed to learning something new. There were certain things I expected. I knew that civil rights movement had an impact on stadium construction in our country, partly because I wrote about that in my last book, in my book on the sports revolution. But, I never saw myself writing about, women struggling, journalists to get into the locker rooms and the press boxes. That was a whole struggle I kind of knew the outlines of, but to kind of see the ways in which we're fighting about manhood and womanhood through the lens of the stadium in the 1970s, that was utterly fascinating to me, right? The ways in which, again, the gay lesbian movement is taking their struggles for justice and equality in the height of the AIDS crisis to Kezar Stadium in San Francisco when they create the alternative Olympics at gay games. These are things that I had never written about before, and I learned a great deal. And I also just realized that, this building that I just associated with sports and architecture really has had a monumental impact on the history of this country.
And speaking of history, when you think of like the Coliseum, that's not, of course, in America, but that is also a giant stadium, and that's been around for a long, long time. Do you think the stadiums that are being built today will last anywhere near as long as something like that?
Probably not, partly because the shelf life of stadiums is getting shorter. As franchises look to, get cities to build them, new structures, sometimes 20 years later. If you look at Atlanta, for example, the Georgia Dome was built in the 1990s. It's replaced by the Mercedes-Benz, stadium, early in the 2010s, right? Or look at Arlington, Texas, where the Texas Rangers play. Their ballpark was built in 1995. Another was built, around 2020, I think, right? So, and then we blow them up very quickly. And some of that is, are very wasteful. So, ideally, they do become these monumental structures that, in many ways, that they were intended to be. But more often than not, the shelf lives are getting shorter.
Well, Frank, thank you for taking the time to chat today, and thank you for putting your heart into this book, The Stadium, An American History of Politics, Protest, and Play. It's available now. Frank, thank you again, sir.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And I'm going to throw a link to the book to make it easy to find. You'll find that in the show notes for today at johnandheidishow.com.
Charlie has Parkinson's. Recently, Charlie started wearing a bracelet from VitaTech Healing.
I'm an avid golfer, and I was going to give it up this year. I just deteriorated that much. Now I'm back to golfing, enjoying it, having a good time. I just can't stress enough how good it is.
Click on radiosavings.com to hear more of Charlie's story and find out how VitaTech Healing is helping others with ADHD, fibromyalgia, autism, and more. Plus, find radio-only savings by clicking the link at radiosavings.com. That's radiosavings.com.
Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
Mushroom clouds can be created by any huge explosion. So it doesn't have to just be like an atomic bomb or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, I think that's a lot more common. Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John? The
average North American lives 13 years longer than the average celebrity. So most people in America live 13 years longer than most celebrities in America. So that's good to know. Fun fact, unless you're a celebrity, I guess. Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
The inventor of television banned televisions from his home. That's kind of fascinating. Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
Wind does not make a sound unless it touches something else. So if wind is just blowing, it's making no noise unless it's actually blowing past something else. And our final fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
Gold never erodes, ever. So what is this ring made of that you gave me? Just kidding. It's gold. Several fun facts. Now, thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show.
If you want a better credit card, it can be easy and not so hard. BetterCreditCards.com. Earn more points and get more perks. Get what you're looking for in a card that works. BetterCreditCards.com. Give yourself a little credit. BetterCreditCards.com. Give yourself a little credit. BetterCreditCards.com.
That's BetterCreditCards.com.
Time now for the Mint Mobile question of the day. It comes your way, courtesy of Mintervention.com. Question for you, Heidi. The average person does this about 1,500 times a year. What is it? Something I just did last night. I haven't done it in a while.
I have no
but
idea.
I did. Dream.
Oh.
The average person dreams 1,500 times a year.
Yeah, you don't have dreams very
I usually
often.
don't. I had some weird dreams last night, so I don't know what that was from. But
Oh, yeah, you woke up, you said, I forgive you for being so mean to me. I'm like, okay.
She's been mean to me in my dream. And in real life, but mainly in the dream. Mint Mobile question of the day comes your way, courtesy of Mintervention.com.
Charlie has Parkinson's. He started wearing a bracelet from Vitatech Healing, and he's noticed a difference, even while sleeping.
Once I got in bed, I couldn't roll over. I couldn't move. I was just whatever position I was in, just a chore to get out of bed. And now everything is so much better.
Click on radiosavings.com to hear more of Charlie's story and find out how Vitatech Healing is helping others with ADHD, fibromyalgia, autism, and more. Plus, find radio-only savings by clicking the link at radiosavings.com. That's radiosavings.com.
Now, some weird news brought to you by WeirdGiftOfTheDay.com. I wish this story happened a little closer to Halloween. Police were called to a beach in California. Lifeguards discovered a human skull. Well, it wasn't a human skull. The Long Beach Police Department said lifeguards contacted authorities, finding a human skull, they thought. Part of its face missing, washed up in the sand. Rumors quickly spread on social media about the grisly discovery. Police were close to launching a homicide investigation when medical examiners deduced the skull is not human or animal. It's a plastic prop skull. Yeah.
You'd think they would have known that right away when they picked it up.
Apparently, it was pretty realistic.
Huh.
So, yeah, that I wonder who did that. If they found it, like, hey, let's go throw this on the beach, see what happens. They're like running around doing high fives right now in their dorm room. Weird news brought to you by WeirdGiftOfTheDay.com.
John and Heidi.
Time now for the list brought to you by BetterCreditCards.com. This comes from the should have told you 2 weeks ago file. I've had this for a bit. How to save money on back to school shopping.
Yeah, it's a bit late. People listening are like,
well, I'm going to share
it.
I'm going to share it anyway because if nothing else, I was going to just not even do it because I'm like, oh man, I should have read this a while ago. But I'm like, it's probably still, it comes in handy. So like this, make a list. They say assign a budget and then stick to that list and don't bring the kids along either. That's another one. Find sales. They say when it's back to school time, there's all kinds of sales and all kinds of stuff, but make sure it's actually like something you need. Just because it's on sale does not necessarily mean you need it. Buy in bulk. They say kids can go through all kinds of essentials. So if you have multiple kids, you can buy in bulk and like dole it out or even do that like for the whole neighborhood. And it says also do your online homework because you can find better prices and better places and things if you look around. So are you shocked by any of that, Heidi?
Not at all, no.
Heidi is such a good shopper.
I'm kind of I'm pretty good at all of that stuff.
Yeah, she probably could add like 7 other things to the list. But again, I apologize that I didn't read this, a couple weeks ago when it would have probably come in a whole lot more handy. But hey, better late than never. The list brought to you by BetterCreditCards.com.
Can your IRA or 401k stand up to the next financial crisis by allocating a percentage of your retirement into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover? You can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns. Safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Protect your retirement today with a simple phone call and receive your free gold and silver guide. Call 1-800-200-GOLD or visit genesisgoldira.com.
Time now for the quote of the day. It comes your way, courtesy of radiosavings.com. Another anonymous quote. Holy cow. Anonymous had a lot to say, apparently. This anonymous quote is, true bonding happens when your friends and you are all mad about the same thing. That's true. That's very true.
There's a lot of accuracy right there.
I read, it wasn't that quote, but I read a thing in the book called The Pendulum. And that's by Roy Williams. And there's another author. I should know who that is, too. But I've read several other books from Roy Williams. And in there, he talked very much about this, that it's easier to get people to come together over things they dislike than things they like.
Yeah.
So, interesting stuff. Quote of the day comes your way, courtesy of radiosavings.com.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by the John and Heidi Show. That sounds kind of funny, but it's true. Go to your local radio station and ask them to start carrying the John and Heidi Show. Here's the best part. They can carry the show for free. They play a couple commercials, but it doesn't cost them anything every month. So if you know a radio station that could use a little bit of help, send them our way. Send them to johnandheidishow.com. Again, johnandheidishow.com. We would love to do a radio program in your community. Then you could listen to the podcast and listen to us on the radio.
John and Heidi.
We always like to wrap things up around here with good news, and I think this is good news. It comes your way, courtesy of GenesisGoldIRA.com. And this, I think, is, again, just one of these stories that could have ended horribly, but thank goodness it did not. Heroic worker rescues a young boy dangling from a balcony.
Ah.
Yeah, this happened in Spain. A man is celebrated as a hero. Why? Because he is a hero. Heart-stopping incident occurred when Felipe David Souza, who was working in an apartment building adjacent to this, heard desperate screams coming from outside the window. He said, I saw a little boy with half of his body out. 6-year-old child appeared paralyzed with fear, one leg precariously dangling over the railing. Below, a frantic crowd shouted desperately, urging the young boy to pull himself back to safety. In a video captured by a bystander, Souza is seen tightly gripping the railing as he cautiously makes his way along the narrow ledge toward the child. Upon reaching him, Souza gently but firmly guides the boy back over the railing to safety. The boy's parents, who had inadvertently dozed off, were in shock when they realized what had happened. They expressed profound gratitude to Souza. According to the police in that area, the boy and his family were tourists. His actions, Souza's actions, have since garnered widespread praise, with many lauding his bravery and instinctive response. He said, I did this without thinking, he humbly stated. As a parent himself, Souza said his only thought was to ensure the safety of the child.
What a stud.
Now, here's the thing that's weird. There's some photos on here, and there's a video, but it looks like the video has been taken down. So I don't know. It says something about it being blocked. I don't know. That is so bizarre. So I don't know why, unless it was, graphic video, but it sounds like everything was stopped before anything bad happened. So I don't understand why the video is blocked, but I do have a link to the story in the show notes for today at johnandheidishow.com. Time to say goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Wednesday.